What the hell is up, everybody? Louis back here again, finally, UFC 280. You got Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Islam Makhachev for the lightweight strap, 155 pounds. Technically, Charles is trying to win the belt, but we all know he's the world champion. And then at my favorite weight class, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight, you got TJ Dillashaw challenging Aljamain Sterling, the Funk Master. I mean, could you ask for anything else? And then you got Peter Yan taking on Sean O'Malley in a fight that nobody saw coming, but everybody wants. I mean, can you do any better? You can, because Beneil Dariush is on the card, taking on Mateusz Gamrot, a new up-and-comer at 155. And then you got Sean Brady and Bilal Muhammad on the prelims, for God's sakes. I mean, come on. Anyway, last weekend I did okay, 500 record, whatever, shitty card. But one thing I regret, Rafael Sunsao over plus 300. Should have took it, man. Had a feeling he could just out-veteran Victor Henry, and that's basically what he did. So, if you have a strong gut feeling about those veterans that are big underdogs, take it. That's my lesson. Okay. First fight of the night, 135 pounds, women's bantamweight. You got Carol Rosa taking on Lena Landsberg. Rosa took on Sarah McMahon her last fight. In the first round, she eats some short hooks whenever she's stepping in the pocket, and then she walks into a single leg and gets taken down into side control, gets put in a half guard. Doesn't do much. Then the second round, she stands at range. She gets blast doubled. She gives up her back. But then she turns into the arm bar and is kind of on top and kind of stacks her and defends, but still was defensive. Then in the third round, she lands a jumping knee and some wide hooks, but she gets taken down with a low single, and she gives up her back. But she's able to get to her feet and then wizard kick her over into half guard. Lands some decent ground and pound, but too little too late, unfortunately. And then Lena Landsberg took on Piane Kianzad her last fight. In the first round, she was able to reverse the clinch against the fence. Then she presses forward with the right cross to a clinch. Then she gives up her back standing, and then she gets drugged down for the rest of the round. Then in the second round, she shoots to the fence, but then she gets reversed. But then she's out in the open, and she gets a clinch to the fence, and then she throws some straights to get into the clinch, but then she gets reversed, gives up her back, but she's able to get out of there after not too long. But then she drops her with a step-in elbow off the fence, kind of out of nowhere, so that was cool. Then in the third round, she eats some lead hooks and jabs at range, but then she tries to land one of those big elbows again, but then she walks into some straight shots. Can't find it again in the fight. Lena Landsberg plus 270, Carol Rosa minus 325. I'm going to go with Lena Landsberg because it's low-level women's MMA, and minus 325 for Carol Rosa is insane. Yeah, dude, I don't know. You know, so I'm going to go with that one. Not going to think about it too much. Lena Landsberg, let's lock it in there. Second fight of the night at 125 pounds, men's flyweight. You got Muhammad MOKAEV taking on Malcolm Gordon. I mean, this is the second fight of the card. I mean, you know, MOKAEV is quickly on the rise. Should be a solid test for him, though. MOKAEV took on Charles Johnson his last fight. His toughest test to date, I guess you would say. In the first round, he stalks on the fence, he cuts him off, lands some jabs, and he throws an uppercut, gets to the body lock, pulls him down against the fence, but then he stays around his back. Matt returns him, keeps one leg in standing, gets his left leg in, like a lot of those predominantly wrestler guys do whenever they're going for the back of the rear naked choke. And then the second round, he gets pressured back, but then he hits a blast. His blast double attempt is stuffed, a little too far out, but then he presses to the fence. He jabs to the double leg, and he gets his back, pulls him down into full guard. Some decent ground and pound, just kind of looking to stay busy, though. Not too much damage here. Then in the third round, he catches a kick, and he's able to get the single leg takedown. But then Johnson, back against the fence, has the double under and a body lock, and he's able to escape the single. But then Muhammad gets right back to the body lock against the fence, and then he's able to escape the guillotine whenever he finishes the single, and he was never really in any threat. So, but, you know, just a good old-fashioned wrestling match, I guess you'd say. But, you know, he looked good, and, you know, won every single round, obviously. Then Malcolm Gordon took on Dennis Bodner his last fight. First round, he lands jabs and then a straight combination. He hurts him with the left cross, but then he gets doubled and he tries to go for the armbar, but then he's able to get the wizard, kicks him over, and then Denny Bondar snaps his arm or something, unfortunately. So, kind of a freak thing, but Malcolm Gordon did look good there. But before that, he took on Francis Figueiredo. In the first round, he lands a hook to a single, then gets the clinch. He throws some odd hooks to the single, but he gets reversed in half guard. But then he locks both of his hands around his back, and he's looking to control posture. Figueiredo doesn't really get any ground and pound off, but then he's able to escape the leg lock attempt, and then gets on the top, lands some nice ground and pound. That was more Figueiredo's mistake than it was Gordon's escape, but whatever. And then Malcolm Gordon plus 750, Muhammad MOKAEV minus 1150. Yeah, the line's insane, but I just don't see Malcolm Gordon winning. I don't think he'll look good against Francisco Figueiredo. And, you know, I'm not saying he wouldn't win, but against Bondar, kind of a freak thing that happened there. So, I don't know. I just see Muhammad MAKHACHEV just, you know, wrestle fucking him because Francisco Figueiredo got him down pretty easily. Now, the line is absolutely insane, but I'm going to go with MAKHACHEV here. If you want to throw money on Malcolm Gordon, do it. The only way I would see him doing it is if MAKHACHEV gets an injury, which does happen, so throw some money on him if you want. But Malcolm Gordon, I don't think he's really a threat to knock Muhammad out. But the whole fight to go under 1.5, minus 125, all the flyweight fights go under. Shout out, no bets barred, so hit that one. But I'm going to go with Muhammad here. Okay, third fight of the night, 185 pounds, men's middleweight. Should be a fun one. You got Armen Petrosyan taking on AJ Dobson. Both these guys are trying to rise up the ranks here. Petrosyan coming off a tough loss to Kyle Borralho. In the first round, he eats a head kick and then a 1-2 at range. Then he gets blast double, gives up his back. That's basically the whole fight, okay? And AJ Dobson isn't really a wrestler, so I'm not going to go over that fight, but he just gets wrestle-fucked. Okay, but before that, he took on Gregory Robocop Rodriguez, which was an amazing fight. In the first round, he lands some leg kicks at range, but he backs up and eats a right overhand, but then he backs up with this straight to the body, and then they get into a firefight, and then he lands a body kick whenever he gets pressed, and then he just kind of skirts the fence a little bit. Then the second round, skirts the fence, lands some jabs and a 1-2, but then he gets rocked with a couple right crosses from Gregory Rodriguez. Then he lands an overhand right when they're fighting in the pocket. He lands a counter left hook off of Gregory's straight, but then he feints a hook and then a body kick, but he walks into a double leg from Gregory toward down in the round. Then in the third round, he gets pressed back with some straights, and then he gets rocked with the head kick. But then he gets head and arm tossed by Gregory, which I think is a mistake on his part, but whatever. And then he gets put in the Sulayev stretch, and but he gets his back taken, and then put in the rear naked choke, but he's able to swim out of it relatively quickly. Gregory doesn't get to sink anything in there. Then he gets back to his feet, and then he lands a blitz of hooks and starts hurting Gregory. Then he starts taking the center of the octagon, and he throws some hooks, and he lands some leg kicks, and he's able to stuff the takedown attempt, and then he lands some body kicks. So, you know, he looked really good. Gregory, a very tough customer, as we all know now. So, really close fight. Did he win? I had it for Gregory, but, you know, he did not win. So, and then AJ Dobson took on Jacob Malkoun. Gets wrestle-fucked, but he looked really good in the first round, I thought. In the first round, he hurts him with the overhand right in the clinch, and then he defends a double and a body lock. He gets the double overs. Malkoun picks him up. He literally just squeezes the shit out of him. Looked pretty good. Then he gets the plum tie, lands some knees and hooks, but then he eats an overhand, but he returns a 1-2, and then a head kick in the pocket. Then in the second round, he gets the plum tie again, and then he lands an overhand at range. But then he stuffs Malkoun's shot, and he reverses the clinch, and he's able to keep the overhook. But then he gets taken down at the high C at range, gives up his back, and he just kind of starts falling off a cliff here, unfortunately, with this cardio. So that's how it was. But then before that, he took on Hashem Arkaga in Dana White's Contender Series. In the first round, he lands an overhand flurry in the pocket, goes to the clinch, then he lands another flurry, drops him, starts swinging like a wild man. Very loosey-goosey, but, you know, he hurt him, so it works out. Then he lands some ground and pound in full guard. Back on the feet, he lands a straight and then a hook flurry, and he gets around his back. Then he gets a body lock trip, takedown, ground and pound. He gets to the back with the rear naked choke, no hooks, gets the submission. So clubbed and subbed him, and worked out well for him. AJ Dobson plus 175, Armen Petrosyan minus 205. Kind of a tough one. I'm going to go with Armen Petrosyan. The line's not too terrible, and I think Dobson is going to be a threat early on. I think he's going to start weighing some odd hooks, but I think Petrosyan will be able to keep his distance, circle away from him. I mean, he went the distance with Gregory Rodriguez, a very close fight. Now, AJ Dobson could crack him, but I think his chin will be okay if he even does get cracked. And I think the pressure will start to get to Dobson. Rounds 2 and 3, Petrosyan's going to start coming towards him, landing some straight shots, some hooks, and taking it to him, maybe getting a clinch on the fence, doing some work in the clinch. And I think that's how the fight's going to go. Kind of straightforward. My pick here is Armen Petrosyan. Moving on, the fourth fight of the night, 170 pounds, men's welterweight. You got Abubakar Nurmagomedov taking on OMARGADZHIEV. Nurmagomedov in the Khabib camp, obviously. He took on Jared Good in his last fight. In the first round, he backs up, lands some jabs at range, but then eats some jabs at range when he gets pressed. But then he rocks him with the counter 1-2 off of Jared's jab. But then he stalks and he backs out of the range of the jabs, trying to find his range and just trying to download some data, I guess. In the second round, he eats a hook to the body while he's throwing a jab. Then he lands he step in clinch, and then he breaks, and then he lands a body kick off of that. Then he clips him with some hooks on the clinch exit, and then in the third round, he shoots a high crotch from space, gets him down. Matt returns him, can't hold him down for too long though. But then he lands an uppercut to the body, then a 1-2, and then he gets the double into half guard, just kind of sits on him. But, you know, works out for him. Jared Gooden, very powerful guy. And then OMARGADZHIEV took on Kyle BORRALHO, his last fight. This was at 185, so he's making his 170 debut. Red flag in my opinion. But in the first round, he slips a jab, lands an overhand right. Then he leans back with a kick, and then he gets on top. But then he gets swept with the underhook, and he gives up his back while he's getting up. And just that's a wrap for that round. Can't really do anything when he got his back. And then the second round, he misses some overhands, but he eats a jump knee, and then he falls while he's swinging his overhands, and then he gives up his back. So that was pretty amateur in my opinion. It looks like he just slipped on a banana peel, literally. And then in the third round, he lands a head kick at range, but he catches the kick, and then he lands an overhand, and he shoots the double. But then he kind of just wings some hooks, and then he gets to the clinch, but then he gets tripped, and then he tries the leg lock, and nothing happens. So, but Kyle BORRALHO is a very good grappler. So, you know, OMARGADZHIEV plus 140, Abubakar minus 165. Abubakar has some wrestling. Maybe he doesn't use it right away, but basically I think he's going to be able to take OMARGADZHIEV down. The striking, you know, who knows? I would say maybe it's about even, but I don't know. I think Abubakar has some power, and you know, just kind of a tight one here. I just don't like OMARGADZHIEV. He looked a little amateurish, to be honest with you, and he just had no answer for the grappling. I think Abubakar is going to be able to get him down at some point or another, certainly 2 out of 3 rounds. My pick here is Abubakar NURMAGOMEDOV, and let's hope it goes like that. Okay, now we're moving on to, let's see, that fight got canceled. Okay, the feature fight of the prelims, 205 pounds men's light heavyweight. You got Volkan No Time OEZDEMIR taking on Nikita KRYLOV. This should be a fun one. Both guys are like around 8 or 9, just trying to stay above the top 10, trying to move up slowly in the rankings. They both took on Paul Craig in their recent fights. KRYLOV took on Gustafsson, but that was sad, so we're not going to go. I'm just going to go over both Craig, a common opponent. In the first round, he gets clinched and he gets pulled into a leg lock, but then he pancakes his double attempt, and then he lands a right hook against the fence, but then he eats a left hook and a head kick standing at range. Then in the second round, he eats a double jab and then a straight from Paul, but then he gets the pancakes him, gets some nice ground and pound in there. But then he feeds him his hips, and he's able to get into full mount later on. But then he lands an overhand left to an uppercut, and then he lands a right hook off of Paul's leg kicks. Then in the third round, he lands some right crosses, and then a left uppercut in the pocket, which rocks him. But then he dips the jab, but eats a straight right. Then he eats a 1-2, and then a body kick. But then his hooks are just a little too short, and can't really find his range there. So, you know, basically just Paul Craig being Paul Craig and trying to pull guard. OEZDEMIR wasn't having any of it, but I did think he looked a little sloppy on the feet. Nikita KRYLOV took on Paul Craig a couple fights ago. In the first round, his front kick is caught, but he finishes the double, gets into half guard, lands some nasty ground and pound. He kind of threatens the arm triangle. Then he postures up, lands some nastier ground and pound. Then he gets caught in a triangle whenever he's standing up, throwing ground and pound, trying to get some extra leverage, and then he gets submitted. So he must have just got a little too overzealous there and got caught, but he was fucking Paul Craig up. And Volkan OEZDEMIR didn't really have Paul Craig in too much trouble, so that's what I'm going to take away from there. Nikita KRYLOV minus 175, Volkan OEZDEMIR plus 150. I'm going to go with KRYLOV. Volkan just did not look sharp. And, you know, Nikita KRYLOV was doing some damage, and he came there to do damage, and I think he's going to take it to Volkan, and Volkan's kind of washed, no offense. I mean, he's not, he still got it, but, like, he fought for the title when he was younger, fell off, and has been going win-losses ever since. So I'm going to go with Nikita KRYLOV here. Should be a fun fight, though. And, you know, Volkan hits him with a big shot. I'm not going to be surprised. But I'm going to go with Nikita here, baby. Okay. And then we got, making sure, yeah, the co-main event of the prelims, 185 pounds, men's middleweight. You got MAKHACHEV and MURADOV taking on Kyle BORRALHO. One of my favorite 185 prospects right now. He's very interesting. I'm interested to see where his career goes. MURADOV took on Gerald Meerschaert his last fight. In the first round, he rocks him with a check right hook off of Gerald's 1-2. But then he lands an uppercut and then a head kick. And he stuffs a double leg attempt, and he lands a short right in the front headlock position. He lands an overhand when he gets pressed. But then he gets pressed, and then he eats overhand left later on. Then he lands an overhand, eats a head kick whenever he's exiting, circling out. Then he eats an overhand, and he gets body locked and gives up his back toward the end of the first round. Then in the second round, he lands a lunge, lands some lunge wild overhands, but then he eats a left hook away circling the fence, misses the overhands, and then he gets body locked and gives up his back, and gets put in a rear naked choke and submitted. So just like that, Gerald was kind of just warming up to him, and he got a little overzealous and gave Gerald an opportunity to get that body lock, and it did not work out well for him. Kyle Borralho took on Armin Petrosyan his last fight. In the first round, he lands a head kick and a straight left, and then gets the double leg off the fence. Then he gets the right, then left hook, and then he takes his back, right and left hook legs whenever he's against the fence, and takes his back. So he took his time and did it right and fully got his back. And the second round, he feints some jabs, he bounces in and out, lands a head kick, and he waits for him to throw, and that's when he shoots his blast double, gets in the full mount, but he slides off the back, but then he pulls the guillotine, kind of tight, not really, but then he walks back on the feet, he walks into some hooks, but then he gets the blast double, then he gets to the back, gets the body triangle this time, very dominant for him. Then in the third round, he backs out of hook range, and he throws a 1-2, they're kind of too short, but then he gets a blast double to the clinch, and just clinches him up for the rest of the round. Can't really get him down, do anything significant. Kind of boring, but got the job done. Kyle Borralho is minus 205, and MOKAEV plus 175. I like Kyle here. I think he could be I think he's more effective in his grappling as Gerald Meerschaert, as in he uses it to win all these rounds and he doesn't take unnecessary damage. I think he's going to get right to the point. I think Muradov is going to have trouble keeping him off of him. Borralho's going to hit like a blast double, get around his back. I mean, it's pretty plain as day for me, honestly. Kyo's striking isn't as good as Gerald Meerschaert's, though, so that could be a factor. But I just see Kyo just winning all 3 rounds, to be honest with you. I'm going to go with Kyle Borralho here, and Kyle Borralho by decision, plus 165. I think that's a good bet as well. Let's go Kyo. On to arguably one of the best prelims ever, 170 pounds, men's welterweight. Below, remember the name Muhammad. Remember his name, guys. Taking on Sean Philadelphia Brady. I was going to say Water Trash, but he's a nice guy. Okay, Bilal Muhammad took on Vicente Luque. His last fight, this was a 5-round contest. In the first round, he skirts the fence, lands a body kick. He ducks the 1-2, then he hits his blast double, times it perfectly. Bilal's timing is excellent, in my opinion. Then he gets his back, gets the left hook in against the fence, but he can't really hold him, but it was enough time to win the round. Then in the second round, he circles, goes side to side, lands a jab whenever he gets pressed. He lands a 1-2 at range, then he just kind of circles off. He stays on his bicycle the whole time, does not want to get cracked by Vicente, very smart. But he eats some kicks while he's circling. Then he lands some 1-2s whenever he gets pressed. But then he circles, and he gets a blast double, gets his back against the fence again, but he can't hold him for too long, still enough to win the round, I think. Then in the third round, he gets rocked with a left hook whenever he's going for the clinch. Then he lands an elbow in the clinch, and then he shoots a double, can't finish it, but he goes to the clinch. Then he eats a left hook in the pocket. In a pocket exchange, both kind of just throwing, not the smartest thing. But then he gets a double leg and then finishes with a trip off of Vicente's jab. And then 4th and 5th round, he goes back to getting the double and getting back control, winning those rounds. I think 3rd round's like the only round he lost, but you know, he looked really good, and Vicente is dangerous and scary, and Vicente knocked him out before. So very good performance from Bilal. Not the most exciting, but he got the damn thing done. And then Sean Brady took on Michael Chiesa last November, almost a year ago. In the first round, he backs up and he feints the overhands. He lands some leg kicks, but he pressures with some overhands, and he catches Michael's kick off of the fence. So catches the kick, gets the double leg off the fence. He gets his back on the fence, gets a left hook, kind of like Bilal just had Vicente, but he can't hold him for too long. Michael's a pretty good grappler. Then in the second round, he eats a combination in the pocket, but he looks for his left hook, but he walks into a left cross by Mike, and he lands a double jab to the clinch. Then he gets the over-under, and then he pulls him down, and he drops to the double leg, and pulls his legs off of the fence, and he gets his back. He gets both hooks in this time, and you could tell it's more dominant control. And Michael's in some trouble here, to be honest. But then in the third round, he eats a jump knee whenever he's going for the clinch. Then he lands a left hook, but he eats a left cross, and then some straights from Mike. Then he clinches, and he gets a double off the fence, and he gets his back, gets both hooks in this time, but Mike is able to turn into him, get the feet to the ground, turn into him. And he gets up, but he eats an uppercut and a knee to the body, but he gets the clinch, and then he whizzer kicks, and then he eats some ground and pound toward the end of the round. But it was a little too late for Mike. But honestly, if there was like a minute left in that fight, Mike could have got a TKO. So, but Michael's big mistake was whenever Brady was clinched, he would go for a knee to the body, and that allowed Sean to clinch him. So I think Mike made some mistakes there that not saying Brady got lucky because he won the fight, but like, you know, Mike kind of helped him out there, unfortunately. But really good fight. Not a great ending for him, but you know, really good back control. Sean Brady minus 140, Bilal Muhammad plus 120. Again, this is a fight where two guys have similar skill sets like Maximov and Malkoun was last week. I'm just going to ride with the underdog here. You got to go with Bilal Muhammad. You know, this fight should be even. It's almost is, but it isn't. I think Bilal is just going to be able to time Brady perfectly. I think he's going to be going for a double. And it comes to just striking. I think Bilal has the edge. He's not powerful. But Sean Brady might be more powerful, but he just kind of wings overhands. He's a little sloppy. And I think Bilal is going to be pretty reserved and pick his spots. And I do see him going for the double. Now we'll see what happens. Now Brady's got some game off of his back, but I think Bilal is going to just stick to his game plan, you know. As long as he doesn't get caught in anything, any guillotines or arm bars or anything like that, I think he'll be okay. But, you know, could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised either way. It's either going to be a boring fight on the feet or it's going to be a scramble fest. So we'll see. But I'm going to go with the slight underdog here. I think it's that close. You know, I'd feel stupid if I went with Sean Brady and he lost. So, but you want to go Bilal Muhammad by decision plus 120. I forget what it is. But just pick Bilal by decision. And then the whole fight to go under 2.5 rounds plus 225. Yeah, Bilal Muhammad by decision is like plus 160 or something like that. It wasn't even really worth betting. But, you know, might as well. And then under 2.5 rounds plus 225. I think that is a, you know, decent prop. Sprinkle a little bit on it. You never know. All right, first fight on the main card at 125 pounds. Women's flyweight. You got Caitlin, the blonde fighter, Chookagian, taking on Manon Fiorot, that French chick. Now, not the most exciting fight in the world, but, you know, it'll be a fun one. Whoever wins this is looking for a title shot, I guess, against Valentina, but who really knows? Caitlin has had like 4 fights in a row, and she's won, but they're not that exciting, so she's going to get another crack at Valentina, who knows? But I think if Manon wins, she's going to be next up, depending on what they do with Talia Santos. Okay, Caitlin took on Amanda Ribas her last fight. In the first round, she comes in and out with some jabs, lands some 1-2s, then she clinches, but then she gets headlocked pretty violently, but then she uses the underhook to roll her through eventually, but she does spend some time on the ground, but then she back on the feet, she lands a step in 1-2, then she lands some 1-2s from range. In the second round, she backs up and she pulls the plum tie, lands some knees, circles out, then she lands a 1-2, then an uppercut, then a cross, and then she stuffs the shot, but she gets clinched, and then she gets headlocked again, tries to go for the triangle, doesn't work out for her. But then she gives her back to stand up, gets to her feet though, then she lands right hook in the pocket, and then she's backing out, just kind of sticking and moving there. So, you know, but getting caught in the headlock twice, not a great look, but it happens. Then in the third round, she slips, and then she slips the right of Amanda, and then she lands a back fist, and then she backs up, lands some jabs, and then she backs out of range, lands some 1-2s. Then she gets doubled off of 1-2, but then she gets right back up to her feet and kind of outpoints her on the feet barely. But you know, split decision. I think I'd give it to Caitlin. It was okay. I thought Amanda was swinging a little wild there toward the end, and I thought Caitlin had the more impactful shots. Doesn't have a lot of power though. Manon Fiorot took on Jennifer Meyer her last fight. I was at that fight. It was fun. In the first round, she lands a side kick, and then she moves out. She gets pressed with overhands on the inside though, but then she misses the kick, and then she gets blitzed, but then she's able to get the clinch off of there. And then she lands a head kick while she's circling, but she eats a head kick of her own, and then she clinches. And then in the second round, she side kick to a wizard kick into full guard, lands some ground and pound, not really impactful. Then she gets taken down with a single against the fence, but then she wizard throws her over, and then she's back on the feet, and then she circles out of the hook range, and then she gets a body lock trip, and then she eats a head kick on the stand up. So, you know, just got caught there, and she took it flush basically, so she has a hell of a chin. So then in the third round, she circles into the body lock, and then she gets clinched off of the side kick, and then she gets tripped, and she gets right up. So output kind of falls down to the third round, but you know, looked pretty good, looks solid. Jennifer Meyer is a tough veteran, tough test for her. Manon Fiorot minus 205, Caitlin Chookagian plus 175. I'm gonna go with Caitlin Chookagian. I think they have similar skill sets, and I think it'll be a striking battle. I don't see too much grappling going on here, but you know, Caitlin's got to watch out for the head kick, but we'll see. It's not low level, but it's like still not high level women's MMA. Like they're fighting for a title opportunity, but crazy things can still happen in women's MMA, period. And Manon Fro, -200, I don't see any reason for her to be that big of a favorite, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go with Caitlin Chookagian at that dog money. And she is a dog. She fights for $1. It's all you can ask for. So we'll see. Okay. Second fight of the main card, 155 pounds. Men's lightweight, you got Benny Dariush taking on Mateos, the gamer, Gamrot. Now, this should be fun as hell. I do have some questions, though, because Benil is coming off layoff. He fought in May 2021, and he was supposed to fight last year, had knee surgery, so, you know, a lot of unanswered questions here. But if you know Dariush, his last fight was in May 2021. He took on Tony Ferguson. In the first round, he throws some hooks and uppercuts, and he tries to get the clinch, lands some overhand to a double, gets a double off the fence, then he lands a full guard, some ground and pound. Nothing significant, though. Then in the second round, he throws the overhand and then an uppercut to the clinch. He gets the double. He's able to escape the Darce attempt, gets in full guard, lands some ground and pound. Then he slides off his back, but then he goes for a heel hook and it stays busy. So, and I guess it was kind of tight, actually. The broadcaster said it was pretty tight, but Tony Ferguson doesn't tap. So then in the third round, he lands a body kick, and then he presses with some overhands to a single, and Tony's trying to stuff it, and then he picks him up and dumps him just like DC back in the day. And then he's in side control. You know, not enough ground and pound for my liking, but he got the job done. And then Mateos took on Arman Saruki in his last fight. This was a 5-round fight. In the first round, he stuffs a double, and then he reshoots in the single, but he's not able to finish there. It was a scramble fest the entire fight. But then he gets doubled off of his leg kick, but then he Grammys out, and he's able to get around his back standing. Can't do too much with it. But then he eats a head kick at range. Then he lands a jab and an overhand, but then he eats a body kick. Then in the second round, he presses with some jabs, but he eats some check hooks, but he eats a body, and then he eats a body kick at range, but he's able to stuff the single on the mat with the whizzer, like wrestling. But then he's able to whizzer kick the double attempt, and then he eats, but then back on the feet, he eats the body kick in the pocket, but then he starts winging some overhands, and he lands one kind of hard. Then in the third round, he eats a right hook on his level change, though, but then he gets a double in the pocket, and he stays on his back standing, and then he's able to drag him down. Doesn't do too much with it, but he's able to complete that takedown. But then he kind of oversteps his jab, and that's when he gets shot on with a single, but he's able to defend that single on the mat. But then he walks into a wheel kick, and then they just kind of exchange straights, standing in front of each other. And then at rounds 4 and 5 go on, Mateos is able to get those takedowns more often, actually complete those takedowns, and Saruki and his gas kind of fell off a little bit. But, you know, it's only a 3-round fight, so we can go based on that. Mateos -190, Benil Dariush +160. I've been going back and forth. I don't know, but Benil Dariush with that long layoff and that surgery, and Mateos has a ton of momentum right now. I don't love the price. I was originally picking Benil for that underdog money, but I don't like layoffs. And I think Mateos is going to, Benil's going to be in Mateos' face. Mateos is going to be in his face. It's going to come down to striking, I guess. Neither guy showed a ton of it. Like, in their last fights, they're both pretty grappling heavy. Honestly, it's just going to come down to the layoff for me. And, yeah, I don't know. I think Mateos is going to be able to finally complete some of those takedowns, or at least he's going to spam them so much, and he's able to get him in the clinch. And I think he's going to be able to counter Benil. Benil kind of rushes in with some overhands, a little wild, so we'll see. But I'm going to go with Mateos. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but, you know. On to the feature fight of the night, the fight that nobody saw coming, but everybody is excited for. 135 pounds, men's bantamweight, Peter No Mercy Yan taking on Sugar Sean O'Malley. O'Malley! Can't wait for it. Very strange matchup, but do I want to see it? Yes. Take my money. Peter Yan took on he took on Aljamain Sterling, but he took on Corey Sandhagen before that. He's more of a stand-up guy. Sean O'Malley, he's not going to wrestle. So, well, he might, but based on the data, he's not going to. Anyway, in that fight against Sandhagen, the first round he pressures forward, eats some leg kicks, but then he walks into some hooks, but he lands some overhands and hooks whenever he gets pressed in the pocket. But that's Peter Yan first round, downloading the data. And then the second round, he presses forward some body kicks, but he eats some jabs and body hooks whenever he's circling, but he feints the jab and then lands a left cross. But then he lands the overhand, then he slips the straights, but then he eats a body hook in return, but then he lands a back fist and a cross. Then in the third round, he rips the body, stands in the pocket, just kind of blocks the jabs. Then he slips the jabs and lands an uppercut, but then he backs out of range of the straights from Corey. But then he slips, and then he slips a punch, and he lands a 1-2. Then he backs out, and then he backs out of the kick range, and then he lands some hooks, and he's able to back out. But then he lands some left hook. He lands left hook, back fist, and then a hook whenever he gets pressed with jabs by Corey, and that just drops him, completely floors him, and it was pretty wild to see Corey Sandhagen get dropped like that. So, and then our 4th and 5th round, but you know, it's only a 3-round fight. So, and then Sean O'Malley took on Pedro Munoz his last fight. Unsatisfying, but in the 1st round he lands some kicks and an overhand, leg kicks and overhand. Then he lands a front kick, just kind of keeps him at bay. But then he lands an overhand right at range, and he's checking most of these kicks though. So, but I don't know how the judges see that, honestly. So I don't know if it's good or bad. But you know, Sean O'Malley's not just letting people kick his legs though. So there's that. Then the 2nd round he lands a lunge jab, then an overhand. But then he lands a step in overhand. He lands some front kicks at range, lands a step in jab, and then there's the eye poke. So, you know. Sean O'Malley plus 225, Peter Yan minus 265. I really wanted to bet Sean O'Malley here, but the more that I think about it, he's just not ready, in my opinion. He's not going to knock out Peter Yan. He could knock out, I mean, nobody knocks out Pedro Munoz, but, you know, I don't know if he was even going to win that fight, to be honest with you. And I think Peter Yan's just going to crowd him. Like, Sean needs space. Peter Yan's just going to get right up in his face and just rip him to the body, land some hooks. And I don't think Sean O'Malley has enough to keep Peter Yan at bay. He might crack him with something, but I feel like Peter Yan has a chin made of steel. And, you know, I just think it's a mismatch, and that's the obvious choice. So I was thinking Sean O'Malley could pull a huge upset, but I just don't understand why it would happen. Sean O'Malley doesn't have the greatest momentum right now. And, you know, whenever he fought Oliveira, just look at what happened, okay? He can't beat everybody, and he can get dominated. So it should be an interesting fight. Don't really know what to make of it exactly, but I just think Peter's going to be able to slip a lot of the jabs and just land with some hooks and some power. Sean O'Malley has power, but he kind of has to find that perfect shot, but Peter Yan makes those powerful shots happen. So I'm going to go with Peter Yan here, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but, you know, we'll see. The co-main event of the evening, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight for the strap. Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling taking on TJ the Snake Dillashaw. This is kind of a weird one. TJ Dillashaw has been off for a long time, and then before that he was off for a long time. So I don't know what to make of it, but TJ Dillashaw is fighting for the title for a 3rd time, I believe, and you know, I'm here for it, man. Both good wrestlers, and they have a lot of similar skill sets, so it should be fun. TJ Dillashaw, the old guard, Aljamain, the new guard. We'll see what happens. Aljamain Sterling took on Peter Yan his last fight. This was the rematch. In the 1st round, he skirts the cage, lands some body kicks. Then he eats an overhand off of his jab. Then he eats a hook off of his single. Nothing really happens that round, let's be honest. Then the 2nd round, he lands an overhand to a single, and he pushes him down to the ground, gets the back, gets the body triangle literally almost immediately, and then he lands some ground and pound, has a rear naked choke attempt. Had him in some trouble. I think he gave him a 10-8. Then in the 3rd round, he gets pressed with some kicks, but he circles out. Then he shoots the high C, but it gets stuffed whenever any level changes, whenever he gets pressed, and he gets stuffed though. But then he fakes a shot, and then he lands an uppercut on Peter, and then he ducks the hook, and then he gets the single, switches off to double, and then gets the body triangle from there. But then in the 4th round, you know, can't really find those takedowns. And in the 4th round, he misses the jab, but he gets pressed with some uppercuts, and he gives up his back, but he gets up to his knees. But then he lands a single, and he gets stuffed and put in the front headlock position. But then he eats a jump knee wherever he's level changing. And at this point, you could Aljamain, I don't know if he's just trying to hold on because he knows he's up 3 rounds or whatever, but he just kind of gets a little desperate with these takedowns. It kind of lunges into him a little too much for my liking. So we'll see. Then he shoots a single, jumps on his back, but he slides off. Then he kind of shrimps out, and then he grabs the leg, and he's able to get up. Then in the 5th round, he gets a single to the fence. Gets a single to the fence, but he's not able to really complete it here. Jan's kind of caught on to the takedowns, and his defense is locked in at this point. But then he starts eats a 1-2 from Peter, and he just kind of circles away. But then he circles, and he jabs, and he gets a double to the back, but he can't get him down. So he has Peter Yan on all fours, but he can't drag him down at this point. And then he gets desperate for the takedowns. He starts leaning into him, and then he tries to get the clinch, but then he eats a jump knee, and then his single attempt gets stuffed, and then Peter Yan spins around and gets his back like wrestling, and just kind of sits there for a minute. But you know, was what it was. Good win for him. And then TJ Dillashaw took on Corey Sandhagen. This was August, I believe, or July of 2021. So a long time ago, he had knee surgery after that, I believe. So he's been waiting a while. But against Corey Sandhagen in the first round, he pressures, but he eats a jump knee on the double. He defends the leg attack, but he gets back standing. Then he lands and he wings a left hook, but then he's able to catch the kick, get around his back. But then he gets caught in a heel hook on the ground, and he lands some ground and pound, but this apparently fucked up his knee, so, you know, it was a tough one. Then in the second round, he lands a clinch to the fence, and then he's able to land a body kick when he breaks off. Then he lands a double jab to a cross, but then he eats a 1-2, and then he gets dropped with a left hook with his hands down, just kind of standing there, don't know what that was about. But then he eats a hook coming in, but then he's able to slip his head and kind of dodge some of these punches after that. Then in the third round, he keeps the clinch, but he eats some jabs at range. Then he jabs and he lands some jabs and some leg kicks. And when he's kind of pressing forward at this point, and then he catches the wheel kick and then he gets to his back. That was more Corey's mistake than it was TJ's win. But then he lands a 1-2, gets a single to the fence. Can't really complete it though. And then he's doing a lot of just like getting around his back and keeping him against the fence, not doing a whole lot with it. Then in the fourth round, he lands a cross and then some leg kicks and then a straight right. But then he gets to the body lock whenever he gets pressed and he gets around his back and puts him against the fence. Doesn't do much though. But then he gets jabbed up while he's going for the clinch. Kind of seems like he's willing to eat some of these shots though. Then in the fifth round, he presses with some leg kicks, but he eats straights, and then he slips his jab, but he can't get around to his back, and then he misses a hook, but then he eats some straight rights. So, you know, is what it was. TJ Dillashaw plus 145, Aljamain Sterling minus 170. The year-and-a-half layoff, man, I don't like it. The line's not big enough to just to start off with. And, you know, TJ Dillashaw and Aljamain Sterling, is it going to be a pure striking battle? Are they going to cancel each other's wrestling? You know, whose striking's better? I would say TJ Dillashaw's striking is definitely better. I think Aljamain Sterling just uses his striking just to set up his takedowns and kind of leaning against people, and he gets desperate for takedowns as the fight goes on. And if he does that against Dillashaw, Dillashaw is going to be able to take advantage and get around him and deliver some nasty ground and pound, I think. But, you know, I think this fight is going to be told in the first 3 rounds. Who's going to set the tone? I don't know. I don't know how Aljamain's striking is going to stack up. I have a feeling that Aljamain can get around his back, though, somehow. I think he'd be able to jab him or duck a hook from TJ. TJ kind of wings those hooks a little bit. Aljamain doesn't have to complete takedowns. He literally just has to get the dude's back and get that figure 4 in, which he can do. He didn't even really complete those takedowns against Jan. But TJ is a dog, and he comes forward, and it doesn't matter if you break his knee. And, you know, he's a great wrestler himself. But I don't see Aljamain getting taken down by him. So, but then rounds 4 and 5 kind of worry me. Is Aljamain going to fall off in those rounds? I don't know. A lot of unanswered questions, but this price tag is not wide enough for me to go with TJ Dillashaw. He's been out for a long time. He's 36 at bantamweight. And, you know, Aljamain just beat Peter Yan. Peter Yan was considered the best bantamweight on the planet at that time. So I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling. We'll see what happens, but I feel comfortable backing the champ. Let's go, Aljo. The main event of the evening. Can you feel it, brother? 155 pounds for the strap. Men's lightweight. Arguably the most prestigious division in the sport. Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Islam Makhachev. I mean, this is the fight everybody wanted to see. I've been dying. Is Islam Makhachev the next Khabib? Does he fight as well as Khabib? Can Charles Oliveira beat Islam? Can Charles Oliveira possibly beat Khabib? Is he the guy? I can't wait for it. There's just too much surrounding this fight to go straight off of statistics. Basically, can Islam Makhachev take down Charles Oliveira? If he does take him down, can Oliveira submit him? Can Oliveira get up? How's Islam striking? Can Islam knock out Charles Oliveira? We know Charles Oliveira can knock people out, so. But Charles Oliveira plus 160, Islam Makhachev minus 190. Here's the deal. I like Charles Oliveira here. He's the champion. Don't care what anybody says. Plus 160 underdog. I think that's very disrespectful. I see the fight going a couple ways. Islam could just take him down every round, and Charles could try to throw up submission attempts, but Islam could just ground and pound him in full guard, go to a 5-round decision. Islam could catch him while maybe it's like the second or the third round and Charles is emptying the gas tank. Islam gets a body lock trip or something like that and is able to choke out Charles Oliveira. That sounds insane, but it could happen. I see it going. Charles Oliveira is just going to pressure forward against Islam like he did Justin Gaethje and just not give him any room to breathe and just crack him with some shots, crack him with some elbows, clinch him up, land some knees maybe. But if he does, maybe he gets taken down, he'll throw up a submission attempt. He'll either get it close to it, or he'll use it to get up, or he'll just straight up catch him in a guillotine, which I don't think is going to happen. But, you know, I think the key here is Charles Oliveira just needs to pressure Islam and put him on the back foot, and he can do that. He did that against Justin Gaethje. I think if he does that, Islam will be overwhelmed. I mean, Islam's last win was against Bobby Green, and Bobby Green is kind of backed up against the fence. Islam got that double, and then he's TKO'd him. I don't see Charles Oliveira doing that. I think if Islam gets... I don't even think Islam's going to get him against the fence, honestly. Like, I think Charles Oliveira is do or die. He said he wants to knock him out in the first round. I think that's how he's going to fight. I think Charles Oliveira is going to do or die in the first round, and I think he can do it. But, you know, it's just too crazy of a fight. But I can't wait. It could go a bunch of different ways. I think Charles Oliveira can pressure him and hurt him and either knock him out or submit him, get him to the ground. I can see that happening very easily. Islam, it's not really his fault necessarily, but he hasn't fought high-level competition. Dan Hooker, that's a solid win. He took him down and got the Kimura, but that was on short notice, and Dan Hooker doesn't wrestle, so... You know, it's like, Islam, do you want to take down Charles Oliveira? Like, do you really want those problems like that? So, we'll see. But I like Charles Oliveira here. Plus 160. You got to go with the underdog. Let's go, Charles do Bronx. Finally win the belt. And lightweight has a champion, and his name is Charles do Bronx Oliveira. All right, everybody. Thanks for rocking with me. I appreciate it. Should be a very interesting card. I hope I make some profits. I picked some good underdogs. I did my research. But, you know, some of those cards before I wasn't too interested in, but this one, super interested in. Arguably the best card of the year, so I can't wait. If you could please check the description, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. Like, share, subscribe, tell people. I'd appreciate it. Even if I don't do great, I can win you some type of money, so I'd appreciate that. Let me know any tips you guys got or any bets you have that I don't have that could possibly help me out, because I'm always willing to learn, and hopefully we can help each other out. Let's see some upsets, let's see some violence, and let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone.